Police 3 weeks into the trial of suspected accomplices in the 2015 massacre of the newspaper staff. The death toll climbed to 23 on Saturday from a crash of a Ukrainian Air Force plane carrying mostly cadets in the east of the country. The World Health Organization said 2 million COVID-19 fatalities are very likely without relentless global action to combat the disease. And South Korea's flag carrier, Korean Air, will not be operating an Incheon-Manila flight for 18 days in October due to the latter's quarantine capacity constraints. In France, a man armed with a meat cleaver wounded two in Paris Friday outside the former offices of satirical weekly Charlie Hebdo before being arrested by police 3 weeks into the trial of suspected accomplices in the 2015 massacre of the newspaper staff. France's Peanut Specialist Anti-Terror Prosecution Office said it has opened a probe into the charges of attempted murder related to a terrorist enterprise as well as conspiracy with terrorists. One witness said he saw a machete with a lot of blood and he saw people shouting. Let's take a look.
J'ai vu une ou deux personnes courir, donc c'était mon chemin, donc j'ai continué à avancer. Et là, au pied du métro, j'ai vu une machette avec plein de sang et des gens en train de crier, c'était un peu la panique. Et pour rejoindre mes locaux, donc j'ai pris un passage qui se trouve juste à côté de mon travail. Et là, j'ai vu une victime allongée, plein de sang. Et donc voilà, j'ai paniqué et là les gens commencent à paniquer aussi, à crier. Et là j'ai été jusqu'à mon travail pour prévenir mes collègues de s'enfermer. Et la police est arrivée à ce moment-là et d'ailleurs nous a demandé de rester enfermés. Et voilà, et au total sur le trajet j'ai vu deux victimes plein de sang.
Now, French police have detained a former flatmate of the man arrested over the attack with a meat cleaver that left two wounded outside the former offices of satirical weekly Charlie Hebdo, according to a judicial source on Saturday. Police also late Friday released another man who was close to the scene of the attack in Paris, but who was confirmed to have been a witness who chased the assailant, according to a source. A total of 7 people are now being held in connection with the attack, which came 3 weeks into the trial of suspected accomplices in the 2015 massacre of the newspaper staff. They included the main perpetrator, who was arrested not far from the scene, according to prosecutors. France's Peanut Specialist Anti-Terror Prosecution Office said it had opened an investigation into charges of attempted murder related to a terrorist enterprise against him, as well as conspiracy with terrorists. And according to Peanut head Jean-Francois Ricard, the suspect was an 18-year-old man. Initial indications were that he was born in Pakistan. French Interior Minister Gérald Darmanin said the attack was clearly an Islamist terrorism. Charlie Hebdo has angered many Muslims around the world by publishing cartoons of the Muslim prophet Muhammad over the years, and in a defiant gesture reprinted some of the caricatures ahead of the trial. 12 people, including some of France's most celebrated cartoonists, were killed in the attack on Charlie Hebdo by Islamist gunmen on January 7, 2015. In other news, the death toll climbed to 23 on Saturday from the crash of a Ukrainian Air Force plane carrying mostly cadets in the east of the country, according to emergency services. The Antonov 26 transport plane was carrying 20 cadets, 7 crew when it crashed late Friday, 2 kilometers, about 1 mile from the Shugiv military air base near the city of Kharkiv. One more body was found under the charred remains of the plane early Saturday, according to emergency services, bringing the number of victims to 23. 2 people were also injured. Ukraine's SBU Security Service said it was a training flight, but the cadets of the Kharkiv National Air Force University were not involved in piloting the plane. It said in a statement that according According to the initial information, the officer who was piloting reported the failure of one of the engines, and 7 minutes later, the plane hit the ground. Ukraine's defense minister, Andriy Taran, said the plane likely caught the ground with its wing and caught fire after that. The cause of the crash is still being investigated. The World Health Organization said 2 million COVID-19 fatalities are very likely without relentless global action to combat the disease. As the 1 million death toll looms in a pandemic that has surged around the planet, the WHO said the prospect of another million deaths was not unimaginable if countries and individuals don't come together to tackle this crisis. Take a look.
Not just test and trace, not just clinical care, not just social distancing, not just hygiene, not just masks, not just vaccines. Do it all. And unless we do it all, the numbers you speak about are not only imaginable, but unfortunately and sadly, very likely. 1 million is a terrible number, and I think we need to reflect on that before we start considering a second million. There is a lot that can be done to save lives, both in terms of disease control, existing life-saving measures, and the innovations that are coming down the pipe. The real question is, are we prepared collectively to do what it takes to avoid that number?
Whether another million people die of COVID-19 is not a function of whether or not we have a vaccine. It's a function of whether or not we put the tools and approaches and knowledge that we have today to work to save lives and prevent transmission. It's as simple as that. And if we start thinking about it as a function of the vaccine, people will unnecessarily and unacceptably die as we wait for a vaccine.
The novel coronavirus has already killed at least 988,993 people since the outbreak emerged in China last December, according to a Johns Hopkins University Coronavirus Center, 3:23 p.m. Manila time, Saturday, September 26. More than 32.5 million cases of the virus have been registered. The World Health Organization says many countries struggling to strike the right balance between protecting public health, personal liberty, and economies. Again, let's listen in.
With the Northern Hemisphere flu season approaching and with cases and hospitalizations increasing, many countries find themselves struggling to strike the right balance between protecting public health, protecting personal liberty, and protecting their economies. So-called lockdowns and the impact on global travel and trade have already taken such a heavy toll. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. That's the message we have. Meaning we have to invest in vaccines, but at the same time, let's be very serious in using the tools we have at hand. Many countries have suppressed the virus, controlled the pandemic with the tools at hand.
What is worrying to us is an increase in hospitalizations and an increase in bed occupancy for hospitalizations and also in ICU. We're at the end of September, not even towards the end of September, and we haven't even started our flu season yet. So what we are worried about is the possibility, that these trends are going in the wrong direction.
Lockdowns and national lockdowns are almost a last resort. And to think that we're back in last resort territory in September at the beginning of the autumn, I think is something that's a pretty sobering thought. Have we exhausted all the tools? Have we really exhausted all of the tools? So we're back to lockdowns as a solution? Have we really implemented testing and tracing and isolation and quarantine? Have we really maximized the value of public health and social measures? Have we really maximized people's commitment to physical distancing and hand hygiene and wearing masks and all of the other things? And are we back to lockdowns as a solution?
We're trying to all work through what our new normal looks like, and whether we like it or not, going back to the old ways right now is not going to happen. We are working towards keeping ourselves safe, finding ways to keep transmission to a low level while we open up our societies. And there are ways that we're doing that. How can we remain social with our friends but keep physically distant? How can that place where I want to go be safer by improving ventilation through either natural ventilation or other means? How can we reduce the number of people that are there? But I think, we really need to stop blaming each other on what is wrong and work together to find these solutions.
Japan's new Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga told the UN General Assembly in a pre-recorded address that he's ready to normalize relations with North Korea's Supreme Leader Kim Jong-un without any conditions. Japan will spare no effort in realizing a world free of nuclear weapons, according to the Prime Minister, as the country marks this year the 75th anniversary of the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombings. Take a look.
日本の新しい総理大臣として私自身条件をつけずにキム・ジャム委員長と会う用意があります。日朝間の実りある関係を記していくことは日朝双方の利益に合致するとともに地域の平和と安定にも大きく寄与するでしょう。あらゆるチャンスを逃すことなく全力で行動していきます。拉致被害者ご家族がご高齢となる中、拉致問題の解決には一刻の猶予もありません。日本として日朝平壌宣言に基づき拉致、核、ミサイルといった諸懸案を包括的に解決、不幸な過去を清算して国交正常化を目指す考えに変わりはありません。日本の新しい総理大臣として私自身としていきます。本年は最初の核兵器の使用から75年が経過した年であります。広島、長崎が繰り返されてはならない、この決意を胸に、日本は非核三原則を堅持しつつ、核兵器のない世界の実現に向けて力を尽くします。国際的な核軍縮、不拡散体制の組織であり、今年発効から50年を迎えた核兵器不拡散条約の維持・強化の重要性を改めて強調します。人命を救う軍縮とされる通常兵器の軍備管理、軍縮にも国際社会が一丸となって取り組んでいかねばなりません。人間の安全保障の理念に立脚し、ユニバーサルヘルスカバレッジの達成に向け、誰の健康も取り残さないという目標を掲げることが重要と考えます。まずはこうした目標を皆さんと共有したいと思います。その上で日本として以下に述べる3つの分野を中心に各国とも協調し
Now, amid the potential global shortage in influenza vaccines and the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, the UN Health Agency has advised countries to protect the elderly and health workers first. The updated recommendations from the World Health Organization come as the Northern Hemisphere braces for the seasonal bug.
Yes, there has in fact been an increased demand, and we're hearing now that countries that are trying to get influenza vaccine cannot get it. Each year, as a reminder, seasonal influenza affects individuals in every country and results up to 1 billion cases, 3 to 5 million severe cases, and on average 290,000 to 650,000 deaths, respiratory-related deaths annually. This year, however, the Strategic Advisory Group of Experts on Immunization have endorsed a set of interim recommendations for influenza vaccination during COVID-19. Based on a set of considerations, including alleviating additive burden on healthcare systems and vulnerable populations, and managing potentially limited supplies of influenza vaccines. SAGE has recommended and endorsed in the last week. Among the 5 risk groups, health workers and older adults are the highest priority groups for influenza vaccination during COVID-19 pandemic. Annually, we know that around 500 million doses of vaccine are produced, and I think that they're produced on demand based on those pre-orders, and there's some margins. We have heard that from our industry associations. They have been able to increase some of the orders for some of the countries, and they've made additional vaccine that they've been handing out. But overall, it does seem to be there's a higher demand than there is numbers of vaccines. Everybody's maybe seen some in the news about the really record low circulation of influenza in the Southern Hemisphere in Australia, New Zealand, South America, and South Africa. And we think really that this is in part due to all of those social measures and physical distancing, travel restrictions, and some of those measures that have been put in place over the past, since the beginning of the pandemic. This follows suit, and influenza also is low circulation in the Northern Hemisphere. We may see less infections, and we also hope to see less infections due to the very high uptake of influenza vaccine. We are seeing some sporadic outbreaks in some areas of the world, and so we really fully believe that as societies open back up, we'll probably start to see flu circulate again back to more normal proportions.
Now, Chinese officials say the country's COVID-19 vaccine development program is in a leading position, and they are on track to achieve an annual production capacity of over 600 million doses by the end of the year. Take a look.
从我们现在研究的状况来看的话，质量有没有保证？谢谢。
目前呢，我国新冠疫苗研发工作总体上处于一个领先的这样一个地位。
主席了网络会议，他说，
因此到目前，我们所有新冠病毒疫苗紧急使用的人员，还没有发生一例严重不良反应，也没有发生一例感染。我们到今年年底，预计我们疫苗的年产能能达到6.1亿剂。大家注意我说的是年产能。那么到明年的话，我们的年产能能达到10亿剂以上。
The Philippine Consulate General in Jeddah successfully repatriated another 356 Filipinos based in Jeddah and other parts of the western region of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia on September 23 via Philippine Airlines chartered flight. Now, the chartered flight landed in Manila on September 24 at around 2:33 p.m. local time. The repatriates are among the thousands of OFWs who have been economically displaced due to the pandemic. Philippine Consul General to Jeddah, Edgar Badajo, said that the repatriation of distressed OFWs in Jeddah and the western region of Saudi Arabia is part of the Philippine government's efforts to bring home overseas Filipinos who would like to be repatriated because of the economic difficulties caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. A small air ambulance is helping save critical coronavirus patients in remote areas of Peru, one of the countries hardest hit by the pandemic, which has winding terrain and poor road networks. Take a look.
Pienso que eso hace falta, creo, ¿no? Muchas veces no hay la distancia no solo de Ayacucho acá, sino de otros sitios lejana, y más fácil es la vía aérea. Ahorita, por ejemplo, hemos salido, hemos llegado en menos de 40 minutos, creo, ¿no? 40 minutos, por ahí creo que es más rápido y más factible para todas las personas que requieran una atención de mayor especialidad, ¿no? Como en este caso Lima maneja hospitales más especializados, personales más capacitados, sobre todo la equipación, ¿no? En provincia no estamos tan equipados como ellos.
Now, the jet is outfitted with an isolation unit that surrounds the patient, has an intensive care unit doctor on board, along with a portable ventilator. Eagle News will be right back.
Mula noon hanggang ngayon, Gabay natin ang MTRCB ratings sa matalino at responsableng panonood. Sa tamang pagsunod sa MTRCB ratings, ginagawa nating ligtas at makabuluhan ang panonood ng bawat miyembro ng pamilyang Pilipino. Lumipas man ang panahon hanggang may pamilyang Pilipino, andyan ang MTRCB.
Hey there, Arnie Aquino here at Hatley Castle, one of the filming locations for the X-Men series. Don't forget to tune in to Digital Nest only on Net25.
It says the best defense is still containment.
We are in uncharted territory.
President Trump plans to nominate Judge Amy Coney Barrett to the Supreme Court. If confirmed, would cement a solid conservative majority on the High Court. Now, leaders of the Republican majority in the Senate, which is tasked with confirming Supreme Court nominees, said they have enough support to hold a vote on the nomination, either before the election or at worst, the lame duck session between the election and the inauguration of the next president in January. Barrett, a law professor, was only appointed to the bench for the first time in 2017. She's considered hostile to abortion rights, a key issue for many Republicans. The Democratic leadership has vowed to do everything in their power to prevent the confirmation of a new justice before the election. But with a 53-47 Republican majority in the Senate, there is little they can do to stop it. The death of Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg a week ago created the U.S. Supreme Court vacancy. Now, late Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg was honored at the U.S. Capitol, where she made history one final time, becoming the first woman and first Jewish person to lie in state there. Ginsburg's flag-draped casket was carried up the Capitol East steps and brought to Statuary Hall, where the justice's relatives, U.S. lawmakers, and dignitaries, including Joe Biden, the Democratic presidential nominee, were in attendance. The stand, known as a catafalque, was the same one that bore President Abraham Lincoln's body after his assassination in 1865. Ginsburg, who died September 18 at age 87, was only the second woman to serve on America's highest court and became known for changing the face of U.S. anti-discrimination law.
It is with profound sorrow and deep sympathy to the Ginsburg family that I have the high honor to welcome Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg to lie in state in the Capitol of the United States. She does so on a catafalque built for Abraham Lincoln.
Now, crowds seek shelter at a church in downtown Louisville, Kentucky during the third night of protests over Breonna Taylor's case. Earlier in the day, they gathered at a makeshift memorial next to which volunteers set up a stand to encourage people to register for the U.S. presidential election in November. Protests erupted in the city over the lack of criminal charges in Taylor's death. Brett Hankison had been charged with wanton endangerment for his role in a botched raid in her home in March, and the other two officers who fired shots have not been indicted, as authorities said they acted in self-defense. Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump called the killing of Breonna Taylor and other unarmed African Americans senseless before adding, "We can never allow mob rule." Let's listen in.
In recent months, our nation has grieved for the tragic deaths of Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, and Ahmaud Arbery. Our hearts break for their families and for all families who have lost a loved one, especially if you look at this way, so senseless. But we can never allow mob rule. To have safety, to have prosperity, to have everything that you want to have, we must always ensure the rule of law. Many of those who are spreading violence in our cities are supporters of an organization called Black Lives Matter, or BLM. It's really hurting the black community. It's hurting the black community. This is an unusual name for an organization whose ideology and tactics are right now destroying many black lives.
An American has been sued by an island resort in Thailand over a negative TripAdvisor review, according to authorities on Saturday, and could face up to 2 years in prison if found guilty. Tourism is still happening in Thailand, where coronavirus numbers are relatively low, with locals and expats heading to near-empty resorts, including Koh Chang Island, famed for its sandy beaches and turquoise waters. But a recent visit to the Sea View Resort on the island landed Wesley Barnes in trouble after he wrote unflattering online reviews about his holiday. The Sea View Resort owner filed a complaint that the defendant had posted unfair reviews of his hotel on the TripAdvisor website, according to Colonel Thanapon Temsara of Koh Chang Police. He said Barnes was accused of causing damage to the reputation of the hotel and of quarreling with staff over not paying a corkage fee for alcohol brought to the hotel. Barnes, who works in Thailand, was arrested by immigration police and then returned to Koh Chang, where he was briefly detained and then freed on bail. According to the TripAdvisor review, Barnes posted in July he encountered unfriendly staff who act like they don't want anyone here. And the Sea View Resort said legal action was only taken because Barnes had penned multiple reviews on different sites over the past weeks. Now, at least one was posted in June on TripAdvisor accusing the hotel of modern-day slavery, which the site removed after a week for violating its guidelines. Thailand's notorious anti-defamation laws have long drawn scrutiny from human rights and press freedom groups, who say powerful players use it as a weapon to stifle free expression. The maximum sentence is 2 years in prison, along with a 200,000 baht or $6,300 U.S. fine. Heroes come in all shapes and sizes. A 5-year-old giant African pouched rat called Magawa, however, has to be one of the world's most unlikely lifesavers. Take a look.
Maybe, I don't know, 6 o'clock?
Now, the rodent has won the animal equivalent of Britain's highest civilian honor for bravery because of his uncanny knack of sniffing out landmines and unexploded ordnance. Now, British veterinary charity, the PDSA, awarded Magawa its gold medal for his life-saving bravery and devotion to duty, which had transformed the lives of people in Cambodia. Magawa, who was trained by the Belgian charity Apopo, has sniffed out 39 landmines and 28 items of unexploded ordnance, making him the organization's most successful Hero rat. Millions of landmines were laid in Cambodia between 1975 and 1998, causing tens of thousands of casualties. Magawa, based in the northern city of Siem Reap, is the first rat to receive a PDSA medal in the 77 years of the awards, joining an illustrious band of brave canines and felines and even a pigeon. The PDSA gold medal is the animal equivalent of Britain's George Cross. The charity also awards the Dickin Medal for military animals. In other news, President Vladimir Putin oversees massive military exercises as Russia staged a series of drills with China and other allies amid fresh tensions with the West. Take a look. Now, the largest of these games, Caucasus 2020, kicked off in southern Russia this week and includes land and naval exercises involving a total of 80,000 people, including more than 12,000 troops. Now, China, Iran, and Myanmar are taking part along with Armenia and Belarus. Now, the Kremlin announced that President Putin will attend the drills. Vasily Kashin, a Moscow-based military analyst, said the drills that last until today and feature naval deployments on the Black Sea and the Caspian have been organized for the top echelons of the military leadership. He said these exercises are the main annual test of the Russian armed forces' readiness to engage in a large-scale conflict. The Russian forces will test the TOS-2 heavy flamethrower systems, first paraded through Moscow's Red Square during Victory Day celebrations in June. President Putin has made reviving the army one of the top priorities of his 20-year rule. Eagle News will be right back.
Do you want to earn a degree while you work? New Era University now offers Expanded Tertiary Education Equivalency and Accreditation Program, or ETIAP. ETIAP is an educational scheme that recognizes knowledge, skills, and prior learning obtained by individuals from non-formal and informal education experiences. It is implemented through deputized higher educational institutions like the New Era University that awards the appropriate degrees. Programs offered are the following: Master's Program, Masters of Arts in Education, major in Educational Management, Master's Program in Business Administration, Bachelor of Arts in Science, major in Political Science, Bachelor of Arts in Science, major in Mass Communication, Bachelor of Science in Education, major in Filipino, major in English, Bachelor of Science in Business Administration with majors in Human Resources Development, Marketing Management, and Financial Management. Beneficiaries must be Filipinos who have attained at least high school level of education. The program is flexible and you don't need to attend regular classes. Expanded Tertiary Education Equivalency and Accreditation Program, or ETIAP, is under the supervision of Dr. Nilo L. Rosas, the University President, and Professor Anita P. Santos, Director of ETIAP. For more information, contact the following: Cristina Moreno, 0995-138-0786, or email cvmoreno@neu.edu.ph, or Arlene Sarmiento, 0906-298-9150, or email cedctl@neu.edu.ph. What are you waiting for? Let New Era University be your partner in achieving your dreams.
South Korea's flag carrier Korean Air will not be operating an Incheon-Manila flight for 18 days in October due to the latter's quarantine capacity constraints. In an advisory posted on its Facebook page, the carrier said flight KE623 will not be operational on October 1 to 2, 5, 7 to 9, 12, 14 to 16, 19, 21 to 23, 26, 28 to the 30th. The Manila-bound flight will only be mounted on October 3 to 4, 6, 10 to 11, 13, 17, 18, 20, 24 to 25, 27, and October 31. Affected passengers may rebook their tickets with the rebooking fee waived or reroute within the ticket validity. They may also opt to refund their tickets with the refund penalty waived. Now, the Manila International Airport Authority has been allowing 3,000 passengers of inbound international flights daily at the Ninoy Aquino International Airport. And as for the outbound flight, the carrier said flight KE624 Manila-Incheon would operate daily from October 1 to December 31. Meanwhile, KE earlier announced the mounting of special flights from Incheon to Cebu, and that would be Flight KE631 Incheon to Cebu is operating on September 26, October 3, 10, 17, 24, and October 31. American Airlines has agreed to a $5.5 billion loan from the U.S. Treasury as it aims to ride out the downturn caused by the coronavirus, according to the carrier. The airline, which has said it could lay off as many as 19,000 employees next month without another relief package from Congress, said the financing will help us shore up our longer-term liquidity until demand returns, according to a message to employees. The loan, authorized as part of the massive CARES Act federal relief package passed this spring, adds to Americans' mounting debt level, which is higher than that of other leading U.S. carriers. The CARES Act also provided $25 billion in payroll support program, or PSP funds, for U.S. carriers, including $5.8 billion to Americans. Now, crowds packed a mega motor show in Beijing on Saturday, the only major international auto event this year, as manufacturers hope to boost the world's biggest car market despite the coronavirus battering demand. Delayed for 5 months because of the pandemic, the 10-day event opened as China has largely brought the virus outbreak under control, although travel restrictions mean most overseas executives stayed home, while some appeared virtually to introduce their new motors. But this didn't stop a packed audience in mandatory face masks from cheering as new cars were driven on stage to be shown off. Luxury brands such as Audi showed off new electric vehicles, while established players like Volkswagen, its parent group, and BMW made commitments to their own electric future, with all electric models to be produced in China. Meanwhile, Chinese electric vehicle firm XPeng took the chance to show off its Kiwi Go-Go, a drone-like vehicle that can carry 2 people, a step towards flying cars. Now, the fact that glitzy gathering was going ahead marked a symbol of hope in the industry, according to BMW China CEO Zhou Chen-Goller, and he told this to the crowd Saturday morning. Tickets were limited this year in a bid to reduce crowds, although attendees surged through the exhibition center shoulder to shoulder. China's auto industry is showing signs of recovery after passenger car sales collapsed by around 80% in January when consumers stayed home and the economy came to a near standstill to curb the virus outbreak.
This generation of independence is the final decade of life.
Eagle News will be right back.
Mula noon hanggang ngayon, gabay natin ang MTRCB ratings sa matalino at responsableng panonood. Sa tamang pagsunod sa MTRCB ratings, ginagawa nating ligtas at makabuluhan ang panonood ng bawat miyembro ng pamilyang Pilipino. Lumipas man ang panahon, hanggang may pamilyang Pilipino, andyan ang MTRCB.
Events happen around us all the time, in our community, in our country, around the world. Events that affect people, move communities, or simply inspire us. Interesting events that people need to know. In these interesting times, we continue to be a competent partner in delivering news about these events. fast, accurate, balanced. Eagle News, because we live in interesting times.
Innovation, digital disruption, globalization. Startups, micro, small, and medium enterprises, as well as large corporations, all face interesting challenges in the market today. Peek into the world of exciting opportunities and partnerships to drive growth with the latest business news and information. We are open for business. Join the conversations to create a more vibrant environment for entrepreneurship. Catch Open for Business every Saturday from 5 to 6 p.m. Open for Business, from vision to action.
Welcome back. Boxing champ Manny Pacquiao wants to fight Irish mixed martial arts star Conor McGregor in the ring next year, according to an aide in a statement on Saturday, for the sake of all the Filipino COVID-19 victims. Senator Manny Pacquiao will be fighting UFC superstar Conor McGregor next year, according to Pacquiao's special assistant Jake Hosson, adding that negotiations are now ongoing. Now, the fight could be staged in the Middle East after the coronavirus pandemic abates, according to the aide, adding that Pacquiao would donate a portion of his prize earnings to Filipino COVID-19 victims. Earlier on Friday, McGregor, 32 years old, said on Twitter he was boxing Manny Pacquiao next in the Middle East. It will be a true honor to have faced two of the greatest boxers of the modern era, McGregor added. Pacquiao, 41, has not fought since claiming the WBA welterweight crown with a stunning victory over Keith Thurman in Las Vegas in July last year. Pacquiao's promoter, Sean Gibbons, earlier told AFP in Los Angeles that the 8th Division world champion was mulling a possible comeback fight with McGregor, though the two camps were a long way from agreement. K-pop band and UNICEF supporters BTS delivered a video message at a high-level side event at the 75th session of the UN General Assembly. Protraction of the COVID-19 crisis, mitigating the impact and protecting future generations. And let's watch this video.
Thank you, representatives of the member states of Group of Friends of Solidarity for Global Health Security, UNICEF Executive Director, Excellencies, and distinguished guests from all around the world. It is a great honor for us to have this valuable opportunity to speak in a session in the 75th UN General Assembly. My name is RM, the leader of the group BTS.
절망했습니다. 모든 게 무너진 것만 같았습니다. 할 수 있는 건 창밖을 내다보는 것뿐이었고,
넓었던 세계가 순식간에 좁아지는 건 제게 굉장히 익숙한 경험입니다.
네, 이번엔 예전과 달리 더 외롭고 좁게 느껴졌습니다. 왜일까 한참을 생각했습니다.
누가 먼저였는지는 모르겠습니다. 많은 감정을 끌어안고 우리 7 멤버들은 함께 음악을 만들기 시작했습니다.
우리의 음악과 함께 사랑하는 멤버들과 가족, 친구들, 그동안 잊고 지냈던 나를 찾았습니다. 우리의 소중함을 잃지 말아야 합니다. 저희가 지난 3년간 이야기해온 Love Myself 메시지처럼.
Let's dream about a future when our words can break out of our small rooms again. It might feel like it's always night and we'll always be alone, but the night is always darkest before the first light of dawn.
Life goes on. Life goes on.
Life goes on.
Life goes on.
Life goes on.
Life goes on.
Life goes on. Let's live on.
And finally, in our news, the Iglesia Ni Cristo members took part in the 1 Million Trees Challenge in Winnipeg. Kathleen May Pangan reports from Canada.
They're always ready to help and are quick in responding to the needs of our fellow men and the community. They're consistent in holding 80 humanity outreach programs in different places of the world. Who are these people who are always ready to help the needs of the community and work hand in hand with the leaders of the community? They are the members of the Iglesia Ni Cristo, Church of Christ, an international church that is now established in 158 countries all over the world. Who is the man who inspired them to do the Aid to Humanity outreach program? They're always ready to help and are quick in responding to the needs of our fellow men and the community. They're consistent in holding 80 humanity outreach programs in different places of the world. Who are these people who are always ready to help the needs of the community and work hand in hand with the leaders of the community? They are the members of the Iglesia Ni Cristo, Church of Christ, an international church that is now established in 158 countries all over the world. Who is the man who inspired them to do the Aid to Humanity outreach program through the Felix Y. Manalo Foundation that even had caught the attention of the political leaders in the community? Their dynamic leader, executive minister, Brother Eduardo V. Manalo. This time, the Iglesia Ni Cristo or Church of Christ members are taking part in doing something valuable for our environment's welfare for future generations.
This is an event in support of the 1 Million Tree Challenge, which was initiated last September by the Mayor of Winnipeg, Brian Bowman. This is our very first volunteer event related to that challenge. I was contacted by the Church of Christ last fall with the offer of having hundreds of volunteers able to help us with this 1 Million Tree Challenge. We had to wait a little while to initiate the event, but I contacted a member of the church, and he was really easily able to find all these volunteers on a pretty short notice. So we would not be able to do this type of activity without the support of community members, members of the Church of Christ. So we're very appreciative. Everyone's spirit, everyone's commitment, friendliness has been amazing. We've only known each other a very short period of time, but I know we're going to have a really great partnership in the future. I guess I would say thank you for building such a great community that comes together and supports the community at large, which is an amazing thing.
They're participating in the 1 Million Trees Challenge of Winnipeg's Mayor Brian Bowman.
It's always nice to be able to come out and support a wonderful activity. I appreciate being asked to come out. What I have found is that in many different circumstances, I will often attend something related to Church of Christ or even other church or other organizations, and often what you will get is people helping other people. Maybe it's to fight poverty or to work on housing and all sorts of things. Today is really special because Church of Christ has actually made a commitment to our environment. Our kids and others, we know how important our environment is, and that's really what today's all about. We're planting trees. So members of the Church of Christ have been out for the last couple of days. I think they've planted over 250 trees in a park, and that's really thinking into the future. It is about protecting our environment. The more trees we have, the better it is. The Prime Minister of Canada said he wants to see 2 billion trees planted. Well, Church of Christ is kind of like showing the way. Not only can it be an individual, but it can also be church families and so many other organizations. So at this point, I think it's great just to recognize how Church of Christ has really stepped up once again on a very important social issue. And this is all about the earth. There is only one earth. And so it's planting trees to make things better for not only today's generation, but future generations.
They are led by their district minister, Brother Sidney Santos. Resident ministers, ministerial workers, officers, and the members of the Iglesia Ni Cristo or Church of Christ are gathered while following the COVID-19 restrictions to respond to the call of Mayor Brian Bowman to plant hundreds of trees here at Woodsworth Park in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada.
Ka Eduardo po, once again, we would like to thank you so much for this blessing in our district to help the community and also to help the future, not only of the church members, but also in this province po. We were able to plant many trees with your approval and always your guidance po. And we know that even though the future is uncertain, we have done our part once again as members of the Church of Christ to ensure that the children and those that will follow afterwards will always have something that they will be able to use and a legacy of the Church of Christ po in our community. Thank you once again po, Ka Eduardo. We love you so much po, and we will continue to follow your guidance and your love for all of us and for the entire community here in Manitoba po. Thank you again po.
They are led by their district minister, Brother Sidney Santos. Resident ministers, ministerial workers, officers, and members of the Iglesia ni Cristo or Church of Christ are gathered while following the COVID-19 restrictions to respond to the call of Mayor Brian Bowman to plant hundreds of trees here at Woodsworth Park in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada today, September 19, 2020. Reporting for Eagle News from Manitoba, Canada, I'm Kathleen May Pangan. We live in interesting times.
Thank you, Kath. In time of physical and emotional distance, we give importance to the unsung service delivered by our frontliners. Our news correspondents positioned all over the world. Without them, we would not have the eagle-eye focus on the facts of this pandemic and its continuing repercussions on our lives. To our international correspondents, thank you for staying in touch with our viewers. Stay safe, protect yourselves and others. Good night. Amalo Angeles. We live in interesting times.
Dahil sa COVID-19 na itala sa ito ng
kontra COVID-19 may na
COVID-19.
COVID-19 is spreading all throughout the country.
Darating ang panahong ng langit ay kulimlim. Sa ayaw at sa gusto mo, sasapit ang gabi magdidilim. Hindi kailangang kumapit sa patalim, bagkus lumapit, umawak ng maigting.
Hindi na panalangin, ibulong sa kanya anumang galing at hiling.
Walang makakapigil sa pusong nanggigigil, hindi titigil.
Makatibana, di ka dapat mabahala, manatili kang mababala.
Tuminga lang, hindi hihinto sa pagtakbo. Tuloy ang laban, maghihintay na may paninindigan. Sulong-sulong sa pagsalubong, sa tagumpay kay tagal na hinintay. Wala na sanang naayaw, ngayon pa ba manghihinayang sa pawis at luha na pinuhunan, sabay-sabay na ikaw. Tuloy ang laban.
Kalamitan ako'y inuunos, pundasyon ko'y nagmisto ng mga tulos, katawang lupa'y hilabot ng lubos. Maria mga buti pinupulbos, realidad ba to o di tunay? Dilan o di rin magkasikunay, kapiling ng dilim at nagbubunkay. Tinig lang ba ako o nasa hukay? Dali natatakot, tila katakutan, kakilakilabot, kinikilabutan. Pagsubok at takot ako siya ay pinalimutan. Sa Diyos ako natakot at hindi kinalimutan.
Walang makakapigil sa pusong nanggigigil, hindi titigil.
Nakatiwala, magtiwala, di ka dapat mabahala, manatili kang mababala.
Tuminga lang,
Net 25, a commercial UHF television station owned and operated by the Eagle Broadcasting Corporation. Transmitting on a 50 kilowatt output with NTC permit number BSD-0184-2020 REN, authorizing this station to operate until July 12, 2023. Net 25 studios and transmitter are located at number 25 Central Avenue, New Era, Quezon City. Net 25 is headed by the following personnel duly licensed by the Professional Regulations Commission and the National Telecommunications Commission. Engineer Armando C. Bonifacio Jr., PECE number 838. Engineer Bernard N. Pangulayan, PECE number 869. Engineer Randy A. Velasco, PECE number 555, with first-class radio telephone operators, Modesto Vidavera, 96-1 PNCR-18494, Fred C. Moliena, 93-1 PVI-6551, Crisostomo G. Narvaez Jr., 96-1 PII-17628. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Net 25 signing off.
Bayang magiliw, pero sa silanganan, alam ng puso, sa titik mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, duyan ka ng magiliw, sa manlulupit, kita pasisingil, sa dagat at bundok, sa simoy at sa langit mong paghaw, may nilang ang tula at awit sa paglayang minamahal. Ang kisap ng watawat mo'y tagumpay na nagdidilim, ang bituin at araw niya kailan pa'y magdidilim. Lupa ng araw ng walo aming pagsikap, buhay langit sa atin mo. Aming ligaya na pag may mamapit, ang namatay ng dahil sa'yo.
Ang susunod na programa ay rated G. Ito ay pwede sa lahat ng manonood.
Pag sinabing Bicol Region, ang unang pumapasok sa isip natin ay napakagagandang tanawin, for sure. Napakagagandang beaches, beautiful and breathtaking sceneries, of course, at syempre, ang kanilang napakasasarap na pagkain. At dahil sa natatanging ganda ng lugar na ito, makailang ulit nang bumabalik ang landmarks dito, ngunit they always have something new to offer. Kaya't sa panibagong episode ng Landmarks, samahan po ninyo kaming muling bisitahin ang isa sa pinakadinarayong rehiyon dito sa Pilipinas, ang Bicol Region. At sama-sama po nating tuklasin at alamin ang mga natatagong likas na yaman at natatanging isla dito sa rehiyong ito.
Bicol Region,
o mas kilala rin sa tawag na Bicolandia, ang isa sa pinakapopular na rehiyon dito sa Pilipinas kung ang pag-uusapan ay turismo, paglalakbay, masarap na putahe, nakamamanghang mga tanawin at natatagong likas na yaman, siguradong hindi kayo pwedeng hindi mabighani sa natatanging ganda ng Bicolandia. Lokasyon pa lang at topografiya ng Bicol ay kawili-wili na sa mga gustong mamasyal dahil bukod sa nasa dulong bahagi ito ng Southern Luzon na pwedeng lakbayin by land mula sa Manila, nandito pa ang lahat ng lugar at tanawin na pwedeng pasyalan. Hindi na siguro kayo magtataka kung bakit nasabi namin na ilang beses na kaming bumalik